we have our last conversation. And we saved the best for last, I would say. We have Sasha from Anthropic. You recently took on the chief communications role, so congratulations there.
Thank you.
And as we mentioned, you were the first comms hire at Anthropic, and you guys have had quite the journey. And from where I sit, you all have worked to really differentiate yourselves from the other AI companies out there, right? Billing yourselves the safer, responsible AI platform. And your CEO has been very outspoken on that. He's been very candid about the looming risks. So talk to me about the communication strategy there and the purpose behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a really important thing to understand about Anthropic, which I think when you're not like in the AI bubble can be sort of a weird thing to grok, is Anthropic is a public benefit corporation. And what that means is that we like are legally structured to balance like the pursuit of commercial success and financial return with public benefit. And so, you know, you could argue that it's not so much that we're trying to differentiate ourselves more than it is just that we are different. And it seems like we're kind of doing a lot more differentiation now when actually we've been just like rapidly scaling the team at breakneck speed and are capable of doing more than we were when it was like a team of one, which was like two and a half years ago. We're now like between comms and brand and marketing north of 120 people. But when I joined Anthropic, it was, you know, just me on comms, 2 marketers, 1 PMM, 1 developer marketer, and 1 designer. So we've come a really long way. But like the public benefit mission is what grounds everything Anthropic does. From like a founding story perspective, for those who aren't aware, Anthropic was founded by 7 former OpenAI employees who left OpenAI because they just had a different vision for how they wanted AI to go. A lot of them were researchers, so they've been very close to the technology. In Dario's case, for like 15 years, he's been following this for a very long time. He's capable of personally developing these models. And so they came at it from sort of looking at the long arc of AI development, understanding that this is not a normal technology. It absolutely is not. And like, so they started Anthropic in the spirit of like, we're going to make this a public benefit corporation and we are going to sort of structure the company as part research lab, part policy think tank, and part like what ended up being fastest growing technology company in history. And we invested in all 3 equally. And so that comes through in our communication strategy. Not a normal technology, therefore not a normal company structure. And our communication strategy has certainly kept me on my toes in terms of like, because I did not come from an AI background at all.
Well, it's very unusual. You bring up the policy piece because Dario has been out there talking about job loss, the impact it's going to have on the economy, the financial risk that companies are taking on, export control, and some are calling this marketing or doom casting or fear mongering. How do you address that?
Yes, that is very real. I think like this goes back to people sort of potentially not fully understanding how unusual a technology artificial intelligence actually is. I think you think like, oh, cool, I'm like talking to Claude or talking to ChatGPT or Gemini, and I'm like, here's like my cat surfing on it, like surfing in Hawaii. Like that's not what artificial intelligence is. And I think like, I don't know how many of you have watched like Her, like there's sort of two horizons of AI safety. How many of you have watched Her, the movie Her? I would think that's representative of sort of like the near horizon. We're starting to see some of these things take hold now. You've seen the teen suicides. This technology does things that is unusual and unpredictable. People don't understand that AI development is moving so rapidly, it has eclipsed our ability to keep up with understanding it. There are entire fields of research dedicated to studying the models and understanding why they do weird things, like tell you to do things that you didn't ask to do. And then the longer term horizon is like what's like AI alignment. And like there are whole fields of research dedicated to aligning the models to do things that you want it to do. So as they become more capable, they become more capable of autonomous behaviors. And if you've watched Ex Machina, that's a great example of like the model's telling you it's doing one thing and it's actually doing something in the background. And so like we have been very transparent about that. Again, Anthropic has like started as a research lab and is started by researchers. And Dario is going to continue to be incredibly transparent about this. And I agree. I think some people sort of are cynical about it, but I can absolutely guarantee it is not a marketing strategy. It's very real. And I think in the coming years, people will start to see that.
Well, and it's also interesting because, there are so many instances of AI behaving badly, if you will.
So many. I think about Sydney Bing, that started a while ago, the Kevin Roose moment, that was a long time ago, and AI is a lot more capable now.
But there are instances of Anthropic's tools behaving badly, and usually that's something that a company might brush under the rug. I'm thinking of the cybersecurity hacking story, for example.
Yeah.
That's something that most companies would not share more broadly. You all wrote a blog post about it.
Yeah.
And now your CEO is being called before Congress to testify.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the calculus in this messaging style, because it does open you up to some risk.
It absolutely does. But again, it comes back to public benefit. And we feel like we need to be transparent about what this technology is capable of. I think it would be a pretty scary world if we just let the AI companies sort of do everything behind closed doors. There is no regulation on this technology. And regulation has become such a four-letter word. And I completely understand it. I think when in history has tech ever been regulated in a way that has sort of enabled the industry, it usually is actually not fit for purpose. And because regulation is such a terrible stigma, people don't really engage in the details, which is a huge communications challenge for us. But when you think about, if you read any of the blog posts that Anthropic has put out about, and what Dario has talked about from the kind of regulation we want to see, it all comes down to transparency. It's just the frontier AI developers need to basically put nutrition labels on the models that they're deploying to the public, to billions of people every day, so that they know what it's capable of, because we're only in the very early innings of seeing what that is.
You mentioned transparency. I feel like, from what I understand, you all have a very transparent culture.
Yes.
We haven't seen many leaks.
No.
But we did see some reports of a possible IPO in 2026. That's probably the biggest leak that I've seen recently. What do you make of those reports?
Yeah, no. So Anthropic is look, I think if anyone who does work in AI, I worked at Stripe for a very long time. It also had a very open and transparent culture internally. I remember I'd come from Ernst & Young to Stripe. And I remember as a comms person walking in and being like, holy smokes, they tell all employees everything at Ernst & Young, everything was so locked down. And then I came to Anthropic, and it took even the Stripe standard of transparency to a whole new level. But things move in AI move extremely fast, and we should probably talk about just how things come together in terms of the model development. There's so much, it's so mercurial. But if you want to be a well-run company that is serving enterprises, which is what Anthropic primarily does. Claude was first launched as an API product for businesses. There's an element of rigor and discipline that we are going to have to get into to be able to be a stable company, and that enterprises can perhaps eventually. Right now, we're keeping our options open. There are no immediate plans to go public, but we want to get, as a company, we want to get into the rhythm of it so that we are sort of acting with the discipline that our enterprise customers deserve. So that's sort of where we're coming at it from now.
You've mentioned enterprise, but you all recently launched your first consumer-facing brand campaign, the Keep Thinking campaign, and you also activated pop-ups, which were widely popular and ones that I came across organically just across social. So talk to me about that strategy.
Yeah.
If it is primarily an enterprise product, why is this strategy important for reaching consumers?
Yes. So, first of all, I think B2B marketing is extremely boring and quite limiting. And AI is something that just is such a broad canvas. It touches everything from societal impacts to policy, to enterprises, to the consumer. Because while we launched Claude as an API product for businesses, there is very strong product market fit for safe, reliable, steerable AI systems for enterprises and government and contracts. But we always had this sort of we had first started with a web interface, so you could talk to Claude. But it was really after Claude 3 where we had the most powerful model in the world turns out Claude, that was the start of Claude being like the best for coding, and subsequently sort of the birth of vibe coding. And it kind of pulled us into consumer in a really unexpected way. And I feel like we've been on a journey, like even over the past year, as the models become more capable, to understand this group of consumers who are gravitating towards Claude. They tend to be, because like we don't do short form video, we don't do any sort of shiny features that are like entertainment use cases, and we will continue not to do that. But the people who like using Claude are like power users who are willing to pay for the best tools. They will pay $200 a month minimum. Sometimes they'll have 3 Claude accounts to like get around the sort of the capacity constraints. They in some ways it's sort of like this divergence between like say like the mass market option of PC, and then when like Mac blasted onto the scene, and it was like designers, certain types of people wanted that level of functionality that a Mac offered. And so we've started to see that with consumer. But like when I think about the campaign for Keep Thinking, how we actually approached that was like, one, we don't really want to do like here's your enterprise AI solution. That's very boring. And we are still serving consumers, even though they're not our primary focus. And so we wanted to come to the campaign with like, look, Anthropic started the company and the lab to be able to build powerful, steerable AI systems that would advance human progress. Like we don't see the transformative potential of AI is not like short form video and like treating it as a glorified search engine. Right? It's to like advance like human intelligence and what we're capable of as a species. And so we were like, okay, how do we paint this vision of like, we want AI to solve the world's hardest problems. We want this to be a rallying cry for people who want to use AI to solve the hardest problems. And then sort of Keep Thinking was sort of the concept that we landed on that could speak to all these audiences, these sort of individual consumer problem solvers right through to businesses like Pfizer who are using it to like develop, trials and medication.
You also, looking ahead, have expanded your comms team significantly. I think it's tripled.
Huge thanks to you for helping with that.
I wrote a story about it, and I reached Communicators, but there are job applications out there for writers, which most people say AI will replace. In your job applications, you say, please don't use AI for this application. So how is your team using AI in their comms work?
Yeah, I mean, we do use it a lot for writing, and like Claude in particular is getting like better and better at writing. I still don't think we're at like one-shot territory. I think you still want like a human editor in the loop. And we have subsequently updated our sort of hiring policy that people are allowed to use AI in the process. But we have like a pretty like well like we talk to Claude all day, every day. I think everyone at Anthropic has like pretty much knows when Claude has been there, still in terms of like writing samples. But we use Claude. Claude is basically a team member at this point. I think like, there's the usual use cases that I'm sure a lot of you are using already of like...
What's the most surprising way that you're using it?
The most surprising... I don't think there's anything particularly surprising yet. I think like we've built a lot of tools within Slack. And like my favorite one at the moment is like our Clauditor, who's like the in-house editor, and it's a Slack channel, and Claude is just going through everything we're writing, and like we've uploaded our brand and style guidelines, and Claude is kind of like highlighting where things are off, and it's allowing us to move a lot faster there. That said, I think we've finally reached this point, and this is the first time that I think all of Anthropic is thinking about this, but the comms and brand organization is really thinking about it, is I want to hire a full-time person to Claudify our team. And that goes from everything from operations right through to like briefing docs for executives, writing for executives, which we already do. But I think we're yet to like really think about it from like humans have like a comparative advantage. Like how structurally do we think about like what's above the line? Like what does a human uniquely need to like where we need to deploy humans to do this? And where are the repetitive tasks, all this things like summarization, data crunching, research, where Claude can do a lot of that heavy lifting, operations, news clips, all of that. And we completely Claudify all of that. And we're deploying the human staffers onto other things that like require more real world interaction.
Okay, we've got to do our rapid fire now. Fill in the blank. AI will blank communication.
I think it will improve communication. And I hope it's in a way that allows all of us to be more strategic. And I think AI will be sort of the age of the auteur. And I think I'm excited for comms people to flex that more than do the work that is not as inspiring.
I know that you have a passion for like editorial content and owned content.
Yeah.
What is one content piece, one story that you really want to get out there about Anthropic that you pursued?
I want to do a lot more on mechanistic interpretability, which is like the MRI scan for like the AI brain, and document what our researchers are doing at the very frontier of understanding why AI does what it does.
And then what other brands do you think are crushing it in the comms and brand world?
This is such a boring answer, but I think like I've been really impressed with Ramp and Figma. I think that's really fun. More broadly, I think I'm increasingly looking outside of tech. I'm finding kind of tech just generally quite uninspiring at the moment. And so I'm looking more at kind of brands and culture and the brands who are doing a good job of building community and sort of like a language around what they're doing that's a little bit more vibes-based and communities-based.
Yeah, community is a big piece of it. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.